about half an hour, so yeah, please don't worry. Very interesting session there on attention. I'd like your attention for 30 minutes with some new and old friends of mine. I have Sam Taylor, who will be known to the Brits in the audience. Sam's been a member of the ISBA TV committee for a long period of time and leads the thought leadership around British advertisers and TV and technology. Lisa from Vodafone has spent some time on the agency side as well, so on the buyer side, but a lot of time on the client side. HSBC, AOL, T-Mobile, where she actually worked with Sam, one we found out in the green room, and 118, which was obviously a famous TV brand back in the day. And on the far side, we have Dan, who's the CRO of Samba. Dan actually has spent a lot of time in broadcaster, both as a traditional ad sales guy and then an innovation guy, and obviously didn't see quite enough innovation at broadcasters, so actually went over to the MarTech side and is now at Samba, which I know a number of you will know Samba in the TV technology sector. So this section is about what brands need now. So we're going to try and explore what brands need now from the broadcasters in the audience, from television advertising, which will affect all of us in the ecosystem, from the agency side, the broadcast side, technology side, but also from technology. What is the technology that's actually missing, that's stopping us moving television from basically the spot buy that pretty much everyone in this room will have grown up with and still is dominating now to actually the next stage. So we'll start with what brands want from broadcasters, and I'll start with Sam here because he's got a very strong view on broadcasters, what they do and what they don't do. Sam, what do you want from broadcasters and what don't they do, and why haven't you persuaded them to do it so far?
So probably good to start on what they do. So I think what they are doing now is they're now recognising that TV isn't a given anymore. So that complacency is no longer there. They know they need to fight for advertiser budget. They recognise that they're not competing against each other anymore. They recognise that they're competing against a much bigger media landscape, whether it be tech companies, whether it be digital companies. And they also recognise that every brand has a different strategy, every brand has different needs. So whether it be short term, whether it be long term, whether it be both. So they're restructuring themselves around servicing those unique needs, whereas before they were very much more sort of agency focused. So that's progressing, and they're sort of moving in the right direction there. Because what's difficult now is though, whilst they're much more looking at how do they deliver solutions for advertisers, they still can't measure those solutions. They can't measure the impact.
So you still want more measurement of the effect?
We need more measurement. We need to understand.
And is that for your personal brain? Is that so you can understand it, or is that to celebrate
the value that TV offers? I think because I think the industry is missing the opportunity to show the impact of linear with sponsorship with broadcast VOD together to drive audience reach for the objectives of the advertiser, whether it be for sales or brand. That's the bit that's missing for me, and the bit that's preventing the broadcasters from sort of moving into the next era really of selling.
Yeah. And Dan, you're a man that left the cosy world of broadcast TV. Yeah. Was that because you were frustrated by the progress, or could you just see bigger paychecks on the tech side?
I never actually left. I just went to a different part of the industry. In 2008, it was obviously an inflection point in the U.S. economy and the global economy, so big changes happening there. But very similar. I think there was a big opportunity for TV to play a much larger role in delivering value to businesses. It just wasn't being measured properly. So you have big declines in traditional ratings and measurement of audiences, and there was so much innovation happening in the Valley. All these video platforms that were coming up that had built their businesses in the digital space saw that opportunity to bring the same kind of data-driven thinking, process automation to advance it to the next era of television. It was a little bit early. I think now all the streaming services have really started to deliver on that promise of what can be done bringing the marriage of what was possible in digital and what has always been the most powerful medium in my mind in television together. And you're really starting to deliver that value to consumers and to brands at the same time. So it was kind of a no-brainer move at that point. And it's been great collaborating with both sides of the ecosystem, broadcasters and advertisers, to start to realize that benefit.
Okay, Lisa, again, so Dan said the most powerful medium. Do you still agree with that? Television is the most powerful medium. Have broadcasters done such a brilliant job over the last 50 years?
I would say, television is the only medium that we all have a room in our house dedicated to. So, yes, there's nothing quite like it. I would say, though, that the TV broadcasters haven't quite realised the unique value that they offer and really helped advertisers understand that. I think when Google and Facebook came to the UK, they built sales functions that were quite aggressive, and especially aggressive directly with advertisers. I think when broadcasters were still sort of comfortable in their relationships with media agencies and assuming that was enough. So there's definitely...
So you want broadcasters to be more aggressive towards you, is that what you're saying?
No, aggressive, well, no, because I think we as advertisers are kind of getting tired of that. And I think, and therefore value the conversations we have with the broadcasters. But we have to almost tease things out of them rather than them coming proactively to us as advertisers. So I think there are a lot of lessons that can be learned, but there's a maturity in the market now, I think, in terms of us advertisers understanding the value and power of TV. And wanting to have the same level and depth of conversation with broadcasters as now we are used to with the digital platforms, because they came to us very early.
Okay, well, let's come back to the brilliant job that Google and Facebook have done at selling to clients, because I think everyone agrees. And I did an event yesterday where we had Google and Facebook being actually quite modest about it. And I think the broadcasters, have done a great job. Audio visual is still seen as the strongest commercial media. But if you talk about the branding effect of television and how easy is that to sell to the C-suite now at Vodafone? I
think we're on a journey, I think, at Vodafone, because there has been historically a naivety around the kind of linear path that can be measured between digital channels and sales. In my mind, a naive kind of view of the world. I think trying to explain econometrics, trying to explain the relationship between multiple channels and multiple outcomes and that interplay is hard. You almost need a mathematician in the room, or several of them, to try and explain it, and that's made it much harder for us to, I think, explain that and sell that story into senior management who are more comfortable with a spreadsheet that shows clicks and it shows sales.
Okay, so is that the marketing departments have failed? Has your department failed, Sam, there? Or are you making progress in that area? Is it all about the last click?
Not enough. So we recognise the value of TV through all of the comments we do. I think what we now struggle with, because TV is a core part and 40% of our spend, the challenge is how you build on top of that. So what do you do when the audience is reducing, there's inflation in the market? How do you continue to grow the TV performance? And when you can't measure the value of added broadcast VOD impressions on top of linear, it's really difficult to pull it out. So what you'll find is, effectiveness teams, internally, externally, will go, well, that's not adding any incrementality to your plan. Adding broadcast VOD, adding, or addressable. So you've got to overcome that challenge internally. And
isn't that the same problem that we've had always with print and out of home and radio?
No, I think the difference with
it's the same problem. Just
the difference with TV is that it's much more there's much more being written about the dying TV audiences and the board that the C-suite are reading. So you've got that kind of overarching challenge. But also, should advertisers really care that you're delivering an impression via live TV, via on-demand, streamed? Should they matter? No, what we care about is delivering against audiences. And I think what we need to try and do is overcome this kind of the different ways of trading, the different ways of buying, different ways of planning, and go, well, we're trying to deliver an audience here. And the question is, how do we measure whether we've delivered that audience and then that's become effective? So is it the right price? Is it the price that we're prepared to pay to deliver against the audience, or isn't it? And at the moment, because you can't measure in a way that's unified, therefore you can't trade in a way that's unified, you're kind of stuck in this world of being forced to look at TV linear versus VOD, when actually it should be just TV.
As well as, yeah. So your agencies fail to do that, the broadcasters fail to do it, and your own in-house effectiveness team have failed to do it. Yeah, so do we need, this is the future of TV, not the death of TV.
We need to unlearn.
Yeah,
We need to unlearn.
Greg,
so,
I think-
yeah,
yeah,
so
I think
Dan,
Sam hit the
Dan,
nail
is
on the head.
technology the problem?
Yeah.
Has technology failed the broadcasters?
No, I think, listen, I mean, Sam nailed it. It's about incrementality. You have an audience to reach, you have business targets that you need to meet, and you want new customers, you want incremental sales. And to do that, television's role in delivering reach was significantly greater. Now it's just become, there's more options. I'll use that hackneyed term, fragmentation, but it's a reality. I mean, consumers have driven that because they have more choice. So understanding the incrementality and role of each channel, I think, is what's been a problem. And the focus hasn't been there in understanding the relationship between SVOD, AVOD, BVOD here, traditional linear and digital channels. So you're not just looking and getting stuck in what the walled gardens have done a great job is focusing you on last click. So you can prove out your own performance within those walled gardens. Television now, because of the data availability, the ability to understand a household more holistically, digital and linear, now you have the intelligence to be able to see where are you getting incremental lift, which broadcaster, which digital channel is delivering incremental audiences, and more importantly, audiences that are converting the way that you want them to. So the data's there, the measurement's available. I think to Sam's point, the competition is not against each other. It's more against, there's one advertising pie out there, and there's more people taking slices of it. So you have to put yourself in a position to get measured in the way that you're really good at. And now broadcasters have a lot of different options in the digital and traditional linear space.
Okay, Lisa, Dan's got a strange accent from a developed country. Yeah, Sam's got an even stranger accent from another developed country. Yeah, you've got a global role. Are you more likely to take risks on your spend, whether it be traditional broadcast spend or digital spend in developing markets, or have you taken a risk where there are broadcasters in other markets outside of UK and US that are actually selling to you on outcomes? Or
Yeah. I only work for Vodafone UK, so I can't speak for other markets, although I do know that the TV market is very different from country to country. So, compare the UK with countries like Greece and Turkey, the cost of TV advertising is much higher. So the amount of GRPs, I've had to educate people within Vodafone, the level of GRPs you can get in the UK for the audience we want to buy against, you'll see much smaller numbers. So I think...
A follow-up question on that. So are Turkey and Greece able to deliver more effectiveness through a high number of GRPs?
Well, it depends what currency you're looking at. So if it's a cost per thousand, then, then they can kind of show much meatier, bigger numbers. That doesn't necessarily mean that the outcomes are better, stronger, but really it depends. I think when it comes to the media market, it depends entirely on what's happening in that local economy, both at a broadcast level and a competitor level.
In a weaker broadcast economy, weaker being more supply, are they being more creative in how they're talking to marketeers? Don't know if anyone else got any experience in that.
Yeah, I would say probably not, because in fact we are one of the most mature markets in terms of digital adoption. Everything from use of social media to SVOD services, and so our media mix will always be far more complex. So ironically, we have markets where the global team are trying to sell the benefits of digital. In the UK, we're having to use Sam's word, unlearn over-reliance.
We're the digital turkeys that voted for Christmas,
on digital, where there's been arguably over-investment.
Yeah. Okay, and so finally on this section, again, those broadcasters could do something more in terms of currency or selling outcomes in whatever market. What would you, if you were looking to win over the ISBA TV group, what's the one thing which you're telling them to do quickly before YouTube kills them?
I think to recognise the full value of their offering and to get a measure and target, I think we need to start talking about audiences, impacts, not about TVRs, because it's old currency. Jamie mentioned it. We need to talk about this kind of universal currency, because everything's then straightforward. It simplifies everything down. And I think one of the things within the ISBA TV group is that even the group now that compared to where it was, 15 years ago, and I was in the TV group then, there's less education around for advertisers to really understand and navigate the market, and they're having to learn the old world and the new world concurrently, and that's really tough. And then they can't join them together. So I think one of the things the broadcasters need to do, and that's in partnership with Barb, is to educate, to build a currency that's universal, to really be able to celebrate what the power of TV and the way that it really does deliver against all manifest different objectives.
Yeah. You're clearly a TV fan. Lisa, you touched about Google and Facebook did a fantastic job, and I still up at a conference about a year ago saying, I once got told off, never criticise someone else for doing their job better than you're doing yours. Yeah. And that's what Google and Facebook have done, through employing talented people, paying top dollar salaries, but also structurally in client teams. Do you think that that business partner view, that C-suite access, can broadcasters get that back?
I think that's a model they need to look to, because I think the model that obviously Google developed very early on in their presence in the UK, which was to focus on linear industries and really bring in industry experts so they could speak their clients' language, is really important. I think there's been a generic understanding that TV builds brands better than any other medium, and it has the power to engage in a narrative that you can only deliver in that medium, but then translating that into then conversations that can be had about an industry with people from that industry sometimes has to happen, because that's how you engage. That's how you engage with people, with senior people, client side, and build a valuable, kind of mutually beneficial relationship. So some of it's the game of just understanding how to build stronger relationships.
Dan, traditional television sales, golf club lunch, So is that what you've
just
taken?
Explained my entire career.
Yeah.
No,
is that what you've taken to Samba? Is that what you've taken to Samba, or have you tried to?
So Samba is a TV data company. I think one of the core value propositions is understanding consumer behavior, and we talk a lot about the ad-supported world, talk a lot about broadcasters, but this growing wave of non-ad-supported services that are just as important for an advertiser to understand. How does a household consume Disney Plus? How does a household consume Prime Originals?
So how do you sell that? So that's what I'm saying. At the moment,
are you
selling
what
into
I mean
the
is that
CTO, the CMO, or again? So
from the CMO down to measurement sciences teams, from agencies to brands, I think there is an intense need and desire to better understand consumer behavior. We've been awash with data, even with GDPR and the looming CCPA in the States, about behavior in the digital space. And what's emerged now through all these different platforms and platforms and data companies like ours is that understanding of behavior is becoming significantly more available. So all the way up, kind of early in the very far upstream in market mix modeling, when they're making kind of broader channel decisions, that input has changed the way they think about it. It's not done, a couple times a year.
What would be the biggest blocker for you to, whether it's Samba or a technology like Samba, what would be the biggest blocker for you internally to actually bring in better measurement? Is it the power of the Google tech stack? Is it the IT department worried about actually putting, again, I remember old days of cookies, people, not another pixel on my website. Yeah.
There's no block at time. Time is always a challenge, because we always want things quickly, and that's always like, at what point would this really happen? Is it worth investing now? Will times change? What's the point? I think the biggest difference, I think, between the likes of the Googles and the Facebooks versus the broadcasters is we sit here as kind of big corporate, big advertisers with lots of money. When you're talking to the D2Cs, the startups, it's the conversation with the founders. It's the conversation with those people that understand tech, that understand analytics. And that's Google and Facebook can have better conversations with those guys than the broadcasters can. Because it's a different world. And I think there's lots of advertising businesses out there, lots of TV revenues that don't exist yet because those businesses don't understand the value of it. I think that would be probably the biggest ask of broadcasters, is to try and get the new to TV, the founders of startups involved, and get them to understand the value of it.
Sam, you brought it up earlier. You talked about how important the insights are. And that's something that is not getting surfaced all that much, is it's all about, did I deliver a demographic? Did I deliver a very broad audience? And the insights about those audiences and how they relate to the business is something that has not been surfaced, and certainly not surfaced with any sort of recency that you can do anything with. So to your question before, what does the CMO, what does the head of marketing, what does the head of sales care about, is insights that they can then take action on. And that's what a lot of the digital platforms bring, is I bring you instant gratification of insights. That data, those analytics are available
Small data,
on TV.
someone said to me. Yeah, bring me small data. Don't bring me big data.
Right.
Yeah.
Small, medium, or large, as
Yeah.
long as it has recency and it's actionable,
I want a
that's
small
what's
amount
important.
of data that's telling me
Yeah.
a story.
Yeah, but then you've got to remember that the broadcasters are creating programming on a daily basis. They're understanding audiences, they're understanding culture, they're creating culture. So I think whilst you might have
This was your
data,
agency side. Was this what you were doing? Yeah.
I would say that that's the kind of conversation we're having now. So, for example, we have a youth brand that we were only advertising within digital platforms to start with, because it was a startup budget. But the point at which that brand accelerated was when we went on Love Island, because Love Island is the single biggest program for youth audiences. You can reach a lot of people very quickly, and it's not just a TV program. It fuels social, it fuels some conversation. It's probably the most talked about phenomenon when it's on air. So actually and in fact that's a good example of where we did have very early conversations with ITV, and we sort of worked a plan with them, which was BVOD and linear TV plan. But that was probably an easy conversation to have, because we had a very fixed, business and brand need, with a very clear, identifiable property that a broadcaster had, where there was a natural partnership. But that's the kind of conversations I think broadcasters
Did
need
you
to
extend
have.
that? Did your agency, now fired, and who did that work? Wavemaker or?
Yes,
It was
but actually
Great work.
that came about
Yeah.
predominantly
So-
because we had the direct relationship with ITV.
With ITV.
So client to broadcaster.
a good relationship with the broadcaster to the advertiser.
Absolutely,
Paid
and-
off,
and
paid off
planned-
benefit all round, because the viewer benefited as well.
Absolutely, and planned every spot, planned every broadcaster VOD placement directly with them.
And did Google and Facebook benefit from that as well? Did you alter your digital strategy to start buying?
We have a matured digital strategy, because obviously what's coincided is, I think, a realization amongst many advertisers, including Vodafone, that a lot of the social platforms are high frequency but very, very low attention. When you are launching a new brand, a new proposition, you can't communicate it in 1.5 seconds. And we have, there's definitely been a maturity around how much we invest in social, what we place in YouTube, and how TV complements that. So actually understanding the relative value of video within different platforms has been quite key to actually getting the right mix.
Yeah. Okay. Been a session on addressable already, but let's touch on that. Sam, again, you've got strong views on this, I know. Yeah. Do people understand what it is? Is it big enough? Are we doing it well enough?
Challenger addressable it works for lots of advertisers, not necessarily for us, because we are an always on kind of broadcast strategy. My Challenger addressable is that the data that's used to identify the audience is not as strong as it could be. If it's a bigger data set, then it's not as scalable as it could be. And then so you've got this kind of challenge thing, paying a premium for targeted audience versus the benefit of wastage in linear. And let's not forget, linear is still, even though with the current inflation, it's still cheap. It's still so inexpensive versus other media lines, that you kind of stuck between the wastage versus the premium of targeting. And until we get that tipping point where sort of linear is more expensive, and obviously there is inflation, addressable comes down in price, then I think we'll see a flip to much more investment in targeted addressable.
Yeah, I had a client in the States, my last role, who said he was just fed up with the cost of ad tech and martech. They said to me, how much do you think how many cents am I spending on ad tech? And I was like, well, 20. And the answer was 42. Yeah, 42 cents in the dollar spent on
But it
take
comes
them off
down
day.
to-
Is
it
that
comes
part
down-
of the problem?
but
Is
it
still,
is, but it
is it media
comes-
cost? Is it still
It is-
cheap airtime will be more
to a
effective
degree,
for you?
but it depends. If you're measuring the effectiveness of what you're delivering, then it's not so much of a problem. The challenge we've got is it's for us, addressable TV isn't as effective. It's more expensive, it's more audience. It's not as effective because the value of wastage is still greater. And if you're looking at everything through an effectiveness lens, then you pay for what, you only pay for what works, and you know what your limits are and what you can afford based on what works. So that defines...
So you need scale.
That defines
You need
it,
scale,
but you
it
do
needs to be
need
cheap.
scale. You do need scale, yeah.
Cheap and scale, Dan, is that something that you'd agree with?
I think it goes back to incrementality, and you see a shift in addressable, at least in the US market. Originally, it was the precision targeting, very high CPMs, and now it's shifted a bit to how do I fill in some of the gaps in the market? Where can I look geographically that maybe on the coasts you have much lower linear viewership? Can I use addressable to fill in some areas where I'm not reaching people? They're light TV viewers, they're using heavy streaming services. So it fills a different need than it was originally imagined for, and it's incredibly valuable there where you can fill in gaps, because reach is still a game that is important to virtually any brand, even ones that have relatively niche audiences.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the nub of the issue. Yeah, Lisa, the brand only works in the long term. Online, online only works in the short term. Is that still the C-suite view? And how do we all, everyone in this room, try and overcome that?
I would, yeah. I think there is a legacy that thinks that way. It is my job to enlighten people within our business. Certainly what we're seeing is TV works in the short term and the long term, whereas...
Is this an education job or is it a technology job?
It's an education job, but you can only educate through fact. Because otherwise you're stuck with opinion. So having short-term econometrics, long-term econometrics is now, for certainly the near future, the best and only currency that demonstrates exactly what your return on investment is through all channels, from a media point of view, and through all channels from a sales point of view. Because obviously, when you're operating in physical retail, telesales, and e-sales, you need to understand how all your media is affecting all of those channels. So I think historically there has been an assumption that digital is the best way to drive sales, because there's that linear path, because you can place an ad on Facebook and you can measure the clicks almost immediately. But I think that's where we're having to, I think the industry will have to change and have to work out how to create management systems that can be delivered quicker, that can be delivered more cheaply. So we're seeing results monthly, not 6 monthly.
Yeah. We've got a couple of minutes there. Let's finish on creativity, because I think that's so often overlooked. I had Sir Martin Sorrell yesterday on a panel talking about he turned up in his hoodie and his trainers, and is now a digital native, we'll be pleased to know. Talked about spending £5 million on a TV. One of his WPP agencies spent £5 million on a TV ad which was out of date after 30 seconds. It's like, that just can't happen anymore. We need speed. Does that take you down a shorter-term online route? So, and is it going to affect broadcast quality?
Well, it's kind of interesting, because I think that tips us into a different debate, which is how much tolerance do the British public have for advertising? Truthfully, the general public still enjoy TV ads. You can see the Christmas TV market. It is a phenomenon because we enjoy watching TV ads of quality. The British public are sick to the teeth of ad bombardment, which tends to happen more in the
from the other side of the
space.
pond, is the creativity debate? Is it dead now? Is it still?
Well, I think it's a couple things. In these environments where you're not controlling frequency, that's where you put yourself at risk if you don't have the right creative, especially in these environments, more binging behavior. If it's not managed and you see the same creative over and over, it doesn't matter what you spent on it, you start to create negative brand impact. I think the other thing is that sometimes we mistake creative performance and targeting performance. You can have the best precision targeting ever designed, but if you put crap creative there, it's going to perform as expected. So yeah, a lot more data needs to get infused into the creative development, put it in the right place and built for the right audience, but managing the relationship through frequency, which is something that is, I think, plagued the industry, especially as there's more of these digitally delivered environments for TV.
Final word to you, Sam. Yeah. Are you spending too much time worrying about the media, or
Worrying about?
the media, or is creative effectiveness?
It's both. It's been really clear what you need. We have now got multiple lines on the TV media plan. And ads, there might be ads that cost £500,000 million that do a job, and they do it bloody well, drive emotional connection to the brand. There are other ads that do a great job rationally at driving sales. What's really important is being clear on what you're trying to do with one versus the other, on your media planning and buying, and on your creative planning and execution. And just not muddling the two, because otherwise you just get something that sits between that doesn't deliver against your objectives. So the Winston Wolfe stuff that we've had for Direct Line has been running for 5 years. Nowhere out. Nowhere out at all.
But probably
The ads are
200
enjoyable.
executions.
Not that, about 3 a year.
Really? That feels like more. Feels like more.
So that's a good thing or a bad thing. But no, but
I'm a heavy viewer.
Nowhere
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So it's worked. You know, I think our challenge now is, well, we need a platform that delivers really short-term, rational sales-driving messages, because we now understand the value of that in the short term, as we do with the power of the kind of brand in the long term. And getting the mix right is critical for you to be able to manage that. So I think £1 million ads are still fine if you're driving really hard brand.
As long as Harvey
metrics.
Keitel doesn't
And as long
get
as-
caught in a Me Too scandal.
Good, yeah. Avoid celebrities.
Well, yeah, avoid celebrity. We're out of time. Yeah, please join me in thanking the panel for a very good.
Thank you.